Yetta, does delaying cost?
Big time.
Moving forward with the Dekker Team. Moving forward together with the Dekker Team.
We are excited to welcome you to another episode of Life's Inside Track. I'm Yetta Dekker.
And I'm Ken Dekker.
And it's where we get to share techniques, thoughts, tips, tools, and tactics that we all need, we all deserve, you, I, everyone, so we can turn our house into home, our families thrive, and we build wealth wisely through real estate, hence thriving.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. We're going to consider the impact of the last decade, really. Delayed home ownership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people are, maybe you're in this boat. Maybe you've delayed buying a home. Maybe you're struggling to get the down payment or insufficient job quality or pay that's causing you to not be able to buy. Or maybe you have children that are delayed in being able to leave the nest and go buy their own property or even rent, because rent's quite expensive as well.
Well, here's what we do know, and we say this probably too often, and yet it probably can't be said often enough. That's a weird thing, right?
What's that?
And that is that whether someone is renting or whether someone is owning, you're buying a house.
Yeah.
It's just for who? Are you buying a house for yourself over time with the mortgage payments, or are you paying somebody else's mortgage payments?
Right.
So are they 100% equal? Maybe, maybe not, but pretty close a lot of times between owning that particular property and renting that particular property, depending on the down payment that you've put into it and all of that. So what we're really getting at is the delay into home ownership, which has been increasing for the last probably 30 years now, the age of somebody buying a home.
Yeah, the first-time home buyer average is more around between 36 and 38 years of age now. And back when we bought, it was more in the 20s.
Early 20s to mid-20s. You're already starting to get late.
Yeah.
And so we're certainly looking at more than a lost decade, but we're just going to refer to the lost decade. And it may not be lost for you. And if it's not, that is fantastic. If you took action, we have several clients that have taken action in their 20, 21, 22, 23. And that makes my heart so happy because we know that real estate doubles approximately how often?
Oh, easily every 10 years. The price of real estate goes up.
It goes up consistently, right? And tends to, depending on what's going on in the particular economy at a particular time. But we can pretty safely say about 10 years, the cost of a house will double.
Sometimes it's closer to 12, but other times it's 5 years. So the last 20 years or so, it's been doubling every 10 years on average. So what does that really mean in figures, right? Like if somebody was to buy, say, a lower end townhome, something that's a little older but still nice, maybe $500,000, right? If you were to buy that today in your 20s, because you were, it's interesting. You said we've helped some people in their early 20s that were buying, and I asked them, how did you come to buy this early? Because many people are delaying this purchase. And he said, well, both of us, before we knew each other, were saving for a house. And they started when they got their first job. They started putting money away towards a house. So it's got to be, that dream. I'm not sure where that dream comes from, whether it's instilled by the parents or from someone they saw who had a nice home. I don't know. Maybe I'll ask that next time I meet with them.
Yeah, that would be an amazing answer to get, right? And even if we said it takes 20 years, because I'm thinking about some of the math of the different properties. And, when we first started in real estate 35 years ago, how much was an average townhome? And then what did it become? And what is it now, that same townhome? Whether we say 10 years or 20 years, we're not really going to argue about how quickly it doubles. But what we know is that it does double.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter really where you are, certainly in the Ottawa area. I mean, we are talking pretty local to Ottawa and surrounding areas. So there are parts of the world that this is not true. This is very much a Canadian, Ontario conversation.
Yeah. And so you take that $500,000 or $500,000 townhouse, right? And if it's going to double in 10 to 12 years, then the person that waits that 10 or 12 years to buy a house, to buy it in their late 30s instead of their late 20s, instead of 500, it's now how much?
$1 million.
$1 million.
Yeah.
Now, that makes it tougher for them to even buy it. But on top of that, the person that got in early has $500,000 in equity that they didn't pay for. It just showed up.
As long as
they don't refinance it for debt, right? For things that, it's fine if they refinance to buy another property because the other property is going up at the same rate. But if you refinance to pay off your credit card and your car loan and stuff like that, then no, you're not building that equity or that wealth. But if you were just simply paying the mortgage off, plus you got that mortgage pay down for those 10 years as well, right? So they're probably $600,000-$700,000 ahead of the person that paid rent and delayed buying. That's ground that's really hard to catch up on, especially as you get later in years. You want to retire comfortably. That real estate is a big portion of being able to do that. And you know what else they're waiting for? Somewhat.
Okay.
Children.
I was going to say, is it kids you're talking about?
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but our kids were expensive. They cost money, right? And so if we can scrimp by when we have children young, we buy a house when we're younger, and we maybe delay some of the fun things.
Yeah, it's each person has to figure this out for themselves, right? And part of figuring this out and just having even greater dialogue around this is joining us at the Building Wealth Wisely workshop.
Oh, that's a great idea.
That's coming up March 20th. And the great news is all you have to do is go to the Dekker Team website, dekkerteam.com. And of course, Dekker spelled with double K's, no C's, DekkerTeam.com. I can almost say it quickly now after 42 years or 43 years of marriage, I guess, we're just about at. And we're going to be offering a free ticket with the purchase of we'll call it an over 21 ticket. So a 22-year-old or older, if they attend, and the tickets are only $47, so we're not talking a ton of money here. But if you purchase a ticket, then you can bring someone 15 to 21 with you at no additional charge. And they don't have to be your kid. They don't have to be a family member. Could be somebody from youth group. It could be somebody that you know that is interested in making good financial choices already. Because what we know is that a significant portion of Canadian Ontario adults are not financially literate. 49% say they wish they knew more about managing their money.
Absolutely.
So we can't get started too young unless they're too rowdy in the room. That's why we're thinking 15-ish. Well, it's true. They got to be able to hear it. And be somewhat interested.
So if it's time for you to think about home ownership, and it's going to be a focus, it's time for maybe a clarity call with us. You can go on our website that Yetta just spoke about, dekkerteam.com, and book right online there. And we're glad that we can be positioning you to build wealth wisely, because it's about much more than just money.
Moving forward with the Dekker Team. Moving forward together with the Dekker